What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Neo Sports Podcast. This is episode 35. As always, I'm here with my brother Josh. Josh, the last time we got on, we gave our predictions for Astros in 6 and Dodgers in 6. Astros still have a chance to get to 6 tonight. The Dodgers are down 3-2 after a big win last night with Chris Taylor getting 3 home runs and then pitching the bullpen. Last year, they came back from a 3-1 deficit and won. Do you think they're going to do it again?
I hope not. I'd much rather play the Braves than the Dodgers in the World Series, especially with me having this plus 1,900 bet that's going on. That's actually looking really well. I sent you the screenshot yesterday, and we're actually favored to win the World Series now. What I think we're like minus 120, right?
Yeah, basically even money at some sports books and minus 125 on others.
Yeah, minus 125. They got the Braves at plus 175, Red Sox at plus 925, and Dodgers at plus 550. So before the season started, I took them to win the World Series at plus 1,900. Nothing in comparison to the gentleman that won $1.3 million last night. So shout out to him. That dude's a god. And only on a 14 parlay, So, I mean, he risked 30 grand, pay out 1.3 million. He had cash out options before the game. I think it's 657,000. I haven't told you. I was like, dude, I would have cashed out just because Case Keenum, so many injuries. You just don't know how that game was going to end up. If Denver came out and they played a pretty good game, they could have easily won that game. But he let it ride. He even had a cash out option, I think, for just under 900,000 in the game. So shout out to him, but we'll get into football a little bit later. Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers, they were kind of a lock last night, honestly. I had them in a parlay. But just, back against the wall, coming out with the bullpen day, Joe Kelly starting it off. I also hit the run first inning. I took the run first inning. So whenever Freddie Freeman hit that bomb, I was pretty pumped about that. So Braves went out to an early 2-0 lead, and Dodgers just poured it on after that. Like you said, Chris Taylor, 3 home runs. They're going to battle. I mean, this is a championship team. Obviously, they're the defending World Series champions, so they're going to battle. They're not going to go away quietly. I definitely see this game going, or the series going to 7 games now. You got Scherzer, then you got Buehler. I think Scherzer's going to be pitching game 6, Buehler pitching game 7. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So if that's just kind of how it lays out, I definitely think Scherzer goes out there. He probably has a legendary performance, gets into game 7, and I'm hoping the Braves win at 7. If I had a bet on it, I'd probably take the Dodgers, but, I'm hoping that we get to see the Braves instead of the Dodgers. I just, that's going to be a lot of hype and everything. And, I like our matchup against the Braves a little bit better, just me personally. In regards to the Astros and the Red Sox, 2 huge back-to-back wins, looking like, we were really worried about being down 3-1 there for a bit, tied it up 2-2. Shout out Framber Valdez, probably one of the most gutsy Astros postseason pitching performances in franchise history. I think prior to that game, our starters had combined for a total of 6 and like 2/3 innings.
Yeah. 1 through 4, 6 and 2/3 innings, and then game 5, he goes 8 innings. And that 8 innings is the most by any pitcher in this postseason. We haven't seen many 7-inning starts, let alone 8, and he did it with only 96 pitches. Definitely got the bullpen a lot of rest, and now going into tonight, because this is Friday morning, the bullpen's got 2 full days of rest.
Absolutely. And shout out Dusty Baker. There was a time whenever Framber, he gave up a double, and then right after that, he hit, a batter. So you got a man on first and second with no outs. And it was kind of looking like the momentum was shifting to the Red Sox, and Dusty came out, and I was like, dude, please don't pull him. Please don't pull him. Please don't. But Dusty came out and said, he goes, look, man, he goes, I went out there and I told him, I said, you're the best. You just be natural, you be who you are, and we're going to get out of this inning. The next thing you know, we had a double play. Then after that, we had a ground out to be able to get out of the inning. And after that, it was just smooth sailing. So tonight's not going to be an easy game. Game 6 is not going to be easy. We got Luis Garcia on the bump for us. We got Evaldi on the bump for the Red Sox. So obviously we've seen a lot of Evaldi. People can say, oh, well, he's lights out against Astros, but it's kind of tough whenever, your offense gets you 8 runs in the first 2 innings, you're automatically down 8-0 going into the bottom of the second. So it's pretty easy to pitch with the 8-run lead. But I think the key to tonight's game for the Astros is going to be, again, jumping on them quick, establishing a lead, and getting Boston start getting a little nervous, start getting a little pressure, playing from behind, having to play catch up. I think that's really is kind of what affected their strategy at the plate in the last 2 games. Is we've established some leads and we've been able to hold those leads. So now I feel like Boston, they're not just trying to get on base. They're not just trying to force long pitch counts. They're a little bit more pressure to hit a double, hit a triple, maybe hit a home run. So I think as long as we can eliminate the walks, the free base runners, and we can just make Boston actually step up to the plate and hit the ball and get runners on base by hits and not walks, I think we should win tonight. I'm hoping that we'll win tonight. I want to be at the game, but I got a buddy's birthday dinner and party that I got to go to tonight. But I'd really like Astros in 6 tonight for us to close it at home and be well rested for the World Series.
Yeah, me too. Let's dive into it a little bit more. Over those first 4 games, it looked and felt like the Astros had got swept after the Red Sox hit 3 grand slams over the course of only 11 innings. I mean, it felt like we were drowning. Games 2 and 3, I didn't necessarily turn it off, but I kind of like stopped watching. I was just like, this is painful. I can't sit here through all of this, because when you go down 8-9 runs in baseball, you and I know very well, you never really come back. I think the largest postseason deficit ever overcome was 8 runs. And it's been a long time since that happened. Yeah, they get 3 grand slams. They have 22 home runs. That's the most in the postseason by far. We're second with only 12 home runs, or 13 now. And they led in every single game. And we talked about it when it was 2-2. We said, okay, let's see how the Red Sox respond once we have the lead, because they had the lead in every single game. And in the 2 wins we had, we came back. And since that 8th inning in game 4, it is 17-1. We have batted 375 and they have batted 185. And not only did Vrabel come out and throw 8 innings, he also threw 4 innings, complete innings, with no ball ever going in the air. He had 4 Ks and 8 ground outs, and it was kind of just a perfect storm of what we needed. But the way the Red Sox were slapping the ball all around the field, it felt like the Astros were done in this series. And then after Altuve ties it 2-2, everything kind of switches. And I expect the Red Sox to feel a little deflated. And I know they're not going to back down, but a little defeated having to come back to Houston, not only come back to Houston, but down a game. So I do expect the Astros to carry the momentum into tonight, get the win, and close that out. And one more note on the Dodgers, dating back to last season, the Dodgers have won 7 straight elimination games. And Chris Taylor is the first player to ever have 3 home runs in an elimination game as well. So some big time games coming up tonight, starting with the Astros, Red Sox, and then the Dodgers, Braves on rest. They'll play game 6 tomorrow. A couple of numbers. This really puts into perspective this Astros lineup, but I want to read off a couple of things and notes that I saw over the last few days. First of all, Altuve is the fastest player to reach 20 home runs in postseason history. So you have that. Bregman is the second most postseason home runs for a third baseman all time, only behind Justin Turner, who just got hurt for the Dodgers, pulled up on his hamstring going to first base.
Correa, he's going to be out for the rest of the playoffs, right?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Correa is 6th all time in postseason RBIs, behind some very good players such as Derek Jeter, Manny Ramirez. And then Gurriel leads all Cuban-born players with hits, RBIs, and games played in the postseason. So you have all these guys, and then you don't mention Jordan, who was the hero essentially in that game, game 5. I mean, I was wondering, his batting average has been fine, giving strong ABs, but I was wondering, when is Jordan going to pop? Because once that gets humming, that's dangerous. And sure enough, he's pushing the ball left field, doing whatever he wanted.
Yeah, he's definitely, I feel like, the X factor for our lineup right now. I feel like when Jordan is hot, that's whenever our team is clicking on all cylinders. And especially with him, with his range, being able to spray the ball to opposite field. You saw him do it over the Green Monster. You saw him do it down the third base line on that clutch double that he had, base clearing double. So I think he's really the X factor in our lineup right now. Shout out Castro. We haven't even talked about Castro, the biggest hit of his career. Also Siri as well. I really like Siri, man. I really like Siri. I love the depth. A lot of people were freaking out whenever we lost George Springer. And they're like, oh, the Astros, are they still going to be the Astros without George Springer, this and that? But me and you were always kind of in agreement that he wasn't really in the core group of the Astros. He was a very, very big part of our team and part of our success and part of that 2017 World Series team. But me and you were confident that just because really he strikes out so much and he's kind of a home run or nothing type of guy, in my opinion. He doesn't hit for average. He doesn't really, spread the ball. Yeah, he may hit a couple gappers in the right center, but being able to get the depth that we have now with Myers, with Chas McCormick, and with Siri, I mean, that is amazing. So shout out to our front office. Shout out to, our organization. Another thing that I really like to see as well is, I don't know if you saw what Correa said about Mr. October, good old Mr. Robinson, handing his Astros cap that says Mr. October on it to Carlos Correa. And Carlos basically saying that, Robinson, handed off the torch to him of being Mr. October. So that's pretty big for something like that to happen. I think Correa is definitely establishing himself as one of the most clutchest shortstops of all time on the defensive and offensive side of the ball. He's already up there, in my opinion, with names like Derek Jeter, with those type of caliber players, when it comes to postseason performances. So again, I'm really hoping that we can re-sign him. It's going to be tough to see him walk after this season. But again, shout out to our front office and being able to replace a guy like Springer and being able to build up within. We see this all the time. Garrett Cole, we didn't pay him his money. George Springer, we didn't pay him his money. But now, man, with Correa, he is a guy that I think, man, we need to throw the entire Brinks truck at him. Whatever he wants, you give him, because me personally, I think if we can keep Correa, Altuve, and Bregman together, that being our core three, we can keep those three together, we will be a very successful ball club for a very long time. I personally think that's what we need to focus on to try to keep together.
Yeah, just it's Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. But we're gonna give a competitive offer, but I think Correa is gonna have a couple $350 million offers elsewhere. I'm not sure it makes sense for him to go to the Yankees after everything that's happened over the last several years. I don't know if he'd go to a market like that. Maybe Boston's in the mix, but they have a good roster at each, position.
I don't see them dropping the bag on Correa whenever you got a guy like Xander, who's one of the most underrated players. I personally think for Correa, it's going to come down to, all right, man, all the crap that the entire league has talked about you and the Astros. You know that. So yeah, they may be offering you all this money because of the performances that you've had, right, throughout the postseason, regular season. This is the first time that he's actually led our team in games played. That was really his downfall prior to this season. So he's proven that he can stay healthy. He's proven that he can play throughout an entire year. But when you think about it, and me, really the type of person Correa is, and what I've learned to kind of know about, obviously I've never met the dude, I don't know him personally, but just seeing him interact in interviews and the way he's always sticking up for his teammates, and him just really becoming, even Altuve said, hey, that's our ball club leader. That's our clubhouse leader. Like, that is the leader of the Houston Astros. You see it all the time. Him and Maldonado would just go up and talk to one of our pitchers just to calm them down or talk strategy or whatever it may be. So I think for Correa, the type of person he is, I could see him taking a little bit less money to stay in Houston and to continue to grow what he started, especially if we win a World Series. If we win a World Series and he gets two in the past, 5 years, I think that's going to be huge. I think that's going to be a huge testament to what he can contribute to us and what we can bring to him. Because at the end of the day, who doesn't want to be able to compete for a World Series year in and year out with guys that you love? The chemistry that him and Altuve have is amazing. I personally don't think he's going to be able to find that anywhere else. And I think it's a little bit different whenever an organization drafts you number one overall. Whenever they draft you number one overall, they're putting trust into you, they're having faith into you, and they're going to say, no, we're going to build an organization around you. Yes, we just so happen to have Altuve already. Then we were able to get lucky with Alex Bregman. He fell right into our hands. We had some other pieces. But I think there's a lot of respect that we're showing Correa, and we'll see whenever Jim Crane gives him an offer, of course, right? That's what it's going to come down to. But I think if we're somewhere, I don't know, within 5%, somewhere around there, you know, to where we're showing him, hey, look, we still have other pieces we need to take care of. You know that, but we're not going to lowball you. I don't see why he wouldn't stay, I mean, personally, just based off the type of man he is shown to be and the type of character he has.
So a little more than 5%, but what about like if he's getting offers of 350 elsewhere and we come in around 275, 300, do you think that's competitive enough for him to consider it?
I personally think we cannot be anything less than like 280. We need to be 280 plus. We need to be 280 plus. Now, what they may do is they may sign him to a shorter deal. Okay. They may sign him to a shorter deal with more money guaranteed up front. Okay. So we can pay him less a year. So it may work out something like that. Obviously, we're going to see how, you know, just our cap is structured. Well, I'm sorry, there's no cap, but just how our money is structured going forward, you know. And also another big contract that we have on our head too that we haven't even talked about is Justin Verlander. You know, we got to figure out what we're going to do with Justin Verlander. Him, you know, obviously not pitching at all this year. I think his contract is up after this year, right? Or is it this year?
Right? Make a qualifying offer, I believe, is what I read recently.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. But before that, you know, we got Game 6 tonight. Houston should be rocking. What I'm really looking forward to tonight is we need Luis Garcia. Even if we don't win, we need him to go at least 4 or 5 innings. We need him to go at least 4 or 5 innings. Because what's going to scare me is if Evaldi pitches lights out and he goes 5, 6, 7 innings.
Well, let's talk about that because Cora made a strong decision to bring Evaldi in the 9th inning of Game 4.
Very true.
In which he threw between 22, 25 pitches, and we were able to get after him in that spot. They tried to replicate what the Dodgers did, bringing Scherzer in, kind of going for the throat, and it didn't work out against us. I think, and I want to get your opinion, do you think that's something that's going to backfire today? Because I think we're going to be able to get to them early, and if we can, maybe just grind them out, get 3, 4 innings from Luis Garcia, and if we have the lead, grind out the bullpen the rest of the way.
Well, so what, he threw 27 pitches?
Like 22, 25, somewhere in that range.
Okay, so somewhere around there, 22, 25 pitches. You think that's about 2 innings of work as a starting pitcher typically, okay? Could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less. So 2 innings of work. Typically, Evaldi's type of guy, he's going to go 5 to 6, 7 innings. So now you're looking at it, he's now on 2 days of rest. So he's on 2 days of rest, pitching a day, 27 pitches. I mean, it's also an elimination game. Guy like an Evaldi, he may just tell Cora, hey, throw me until my arm falls off. You know, so that's one of the things that with it being an elimination game, I think it's going to be a little bit different. I think that, yes, if we jump on him early, you know, again, that's a little, what does jumping on him mean? Does that mean 1 run? Does that mean 2 runs? Does that mean 3 runs? Right? Because that's all going to kind of determine, because me personally, we've been able to hit their bullpen with ease this series. Okay. When we've gotten in their bullpen, we really haven't struggled. It's whenever, again, Evaldi was going, Chris Sale was going for a little bit. We finally got Sale out of the game. But whenever we get in their bullpen, we're hitting well against them. So, in my opinion, for Evaldi, he's going to, for the Red Sox to have a chance, he's going to have to go 3, 4 innings. He's going to have to. So, for me, if we jump on him early, you know, Cora is probably still going to try to stick with Evaldi just because he knows he's not going to be able to throw in Game 7. And that's by far their best arm that they have. So he's going to try to limit the damage with Evaldi as much as he possibly can. But I think it's going to come down to how many runs do we put up. You know, if we get into 3, 4 runs where they're chasing 3 to 4 runs, hey, you really have no choice but to get into your bullpen. So it's going to be interesting to see. That decision may come back and bite him in the butt. It may come back to where it doesn't affect him at all. You know, but we do know Evaldi's going to be a little juiced up. You know, he's playing an elimination game. He grew up in Alvin, Texas, which is about 30 minutes southwest of downtown Houston. You know, so his family's from there. You know, he's going to be pumped up to pitch in this game, no doubt, 100%. So we'll see how it goes. For me, if I'm the Astros, I'm telling our guys, hey, you need to be working every single count. We need to try to get that pitch count up and get into their bullpen. I think that's going to be the way for us to win tonight, is trying to get Evaldi to be pitching 15, 17, 20 pitches an inning minimum. If we can do that and get him out, he's not going to be able to come out and throw 100 pitches tonight. There's just no way. You know, he's probably going to be on that threshold of 65, 70, maybe 80 to get to that 100 pitches, total from the 2-day rest. But other than that, now you're just going to be, risking injury for the kid or for the guy. And, I don't think Alex Cora will be doing that.
And I think another advantage for the Astros in that they got a couple of batters to see him again, and a couple of batters had success against him. So now the lineup has a little bit more confidence because he got to us in that first matchup. So, it's easy to get to us when you have an 8-0 lead as a pitcher.
Right.
But
exactly.
Still, point being, he had some success. He has had some success against us throughout the regular season. So now getting a couple extra looks, Correa getting that double off of him, I think there's a little bit more confidence for the lineup going into tonight. But should be a good one. Last note on Framber Valdez. Again, just another huge shout out because of his performance. He's the first pitcher in the postseason to go 8 innings and give up 1 run or less since Madison Bumgarner in 2016. So great company to be in, huge performance. You just don't see those kind of performances in the playoffs that often anymore. Not when you got to rely on pretty much the whole staff to get you through a game and get a win because everything's a grind.
Yeah, especially at Fenway too. They were mentioning some stats that he was like the first pitcher in postseason history to retire 10 straight batters at Fenway.
Yeah, he was the first one ever to be perfect through 10 straight batters.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think because you're like, well, I guess that is difficult because you got to go through the lineup one time. But the fact that that's never happened at Fenway, think of some of the pitchers that have pitched it, against the Red Sox in the postseason. So that's a pretty remarkable stat. I remember whenever they were talking about that during the game, and he was at 9 straight, and he wound up getting a ground out to Yuli. And shout out our infield, man. Our infield play their tails off in Game 5. For Framber to have that confidence to throw those sinker pitches and say, hey, you know what? I know Altuve's been terrible defensively this series, which he has. Altuve has been absolutely terrible defensively this series. But our infield played great. Bregman played great. Correa played great. Yuli continues to make every single play that we need him to make, whether it's a pick, whether it's him getting off first base, moving to his right side, and trusting the pitcher to get there in time. So all the pieces are there. And hopefully
the Correa toe tap double play never gets old.
No.
Absolutely filthy.
No, not at all. Tap with the left foot, slide with the right, and just let it launch. The dude has probably the strongest arm in the MLB, So, but so with that being said, we're gonna kind of move over from baseball, and I want to get into basketball real quick, Zane, before we kind of touch bases with football. So basketball just started, and now we're at a point now to where we have some games that have been under the way the last 2 nights. One of the more popular games, I guess you can say, or the better games to watch was definitely the Knicks and the Celtics game. That was a really good game, went into double overtime. Derrick Rose being clutch, hitting the dagger with like 22 seconds left to put them up by 4. Jaylen Brown absolutely going off.
One of the most underrated players in the NBA, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, with him, can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
He's always putting up huge numbers, having a great year. But I feel like once it gets to that, March, April, May time, he's always like getting hurt in the worst time, I feel like. And then you just got Jason Tatum that just takes over for a month, averaging like 35 plus. But yeah, that was a great game. LA, of course, having the tough start against the Warriors. A lot of people already bashing Russell Westbrook, thinking if that was a good decision. Like, guys, relax. It's one game, And me personally, just to kind of talk about the Lakers, because, I'm a LeBron James fan. I don't really have an NBA team. You can call me what you want, but I just follow LeBron wherever he goes. And that's who I'm going to root for. He's the greatest athlete of all time, in my personal opinion, on and off the court. But with that being said, I think the way this team is set up, LeBron is going to have to take control of that offense. He's not going to be able to pawn off the point guard duties with that first team. Let Rajon Rondo run the set, run the offense coming in off the bench. But on that first team, whenever it's him, Russ, Kent Bazemore, Anthony Davis, and then I think they have Dwight Howard, right? That's their starting 5.
DeAndre Jordan,
I'm sorry. Whenever they have DeAndre Jordan coming in. So you got DeAndre Jordan, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Kent Bazemore. That's their starting 5. with that starting five, LeBron needs to be running the offense. I feel like too many times he's trying to pawn off and put the pressure, not the pressure, but just, hey, I'm going to sit here, Russ, I'm going to let you do your thing, drive to the basket, kick, whatever it may be. But we all know Russell Westbrook has issues taking care of the basketball. He
But
does.
Josh, what's Russ going to do when he doesn't have the ball, when LeBron's bringing it up? Because Russ isn't that good at moving. He's not good at spot up
Play
shooting
defense and sit his ass in the corner
and
and pump
slash.
fake and drive to the basket. I mean, Russ is on that team for some reasons that a lot of people, in my personal opinion, aren't really comprehending. He's on that team to bring veteran experience, okay, his defensive mentality, because they definitely need perimeter defenders. Them going to get Avery Bradley was a huge pickup, but Russell Westbrook is a great perimeter defender. Being able to have him, the energy that he brings in, and whenever he does get hot, whenever he goes down those streaks and he'll come out and he's averaging 20, 10, and 11, there's virtually no stopping Russell Westbrook whenever he gets like that. So, but the question is what are they going to do whenever he's not like that? Whenever he's not like that, Russell needs to stand to the side, go sit his ass in the corner, and be ready to catch and shoot, because he has shown the ability to catch and shoot, not at an extremely high rate. He's not just a spot up shooter, but he has the ability to catch and shoot and knock down some open tray balls. So for me personally, I think LeBron is going to have to take control of the offense. He's going to have to run the point guard position, and they're going to have to run the offense through him. But Anthony Davis is going to have to step up. He's going to have to step up. He's going to have to be the MVP of that team. Me personally, I think there's no reason why Anthony Davis shouldn't be in the discussion of MVP every year if he's healthy. So LeBron, take over, feed your big man, be aggressive on the offensive side of the ball, but the Lakers are going to have to play defense. They're going to have to play defense. They're not going to be able to come out and outscore everybody. That's not how they won in the bubble. They won in the bubble by playing great defense, forcing turnovers, pushing the ball up, scoring in transition, and having LeBron, i.e. the best passer of all time, being able to populate the field accordingly. So for me, that's going to be the key factor for that. And for everyone that's freaking out about Russ, just relax. He'll be fine. It was his first game. Even LeBron came out and said, dude, I told Russ to go home, watch a comedy, forget about it. It is what it is. They still got 81 other games. I know they're playing the Phoenix Suns tonight. That's going to be another tough matchup for them. But hey, you're in the Western Conference. You're not going to have a lot of easy matchups. But speaking of another Western Conference team, your Rockets look really good against Minnesota in the opening night. Anthony Edwards, hitting a three, getting real hot, pointing to the Rockets sideline. He's trying to tell them to call a timeout, and they gave him a timeout. And he's like, I didn't mean to call that timeout. He's like, I was telling their coach to call a timeout because I was hot. I love Anthony Edwards, by the way.
Yeah, so do I. I love Ant. The Rockets will be fine. They got a lot of young pieces. You know how it is in the NBA, dude. When you rebuild through the draft, it takes 5-10 years because everyone has superstars in the NBA, and you win in free agency in the NBA. You go out and sign other stars. So if you're going to build through the draft, it's going to take a very long time. But hopefully with the young pieces they do have, sooner rather than later, they'll start to be a little bit more competitive. But I expect them once again to be at the bottom of the league just because of a lack of experience. But I will say one more thing with Russell Westbrook. It can work, but I think he's just going to have to accept what his new role is at this point in his career. So if that is LeBron bringing it up and Russ setting up for spot up shots or backdoor cuts, he's going to have to understand that, hey, I can't be the guy bringing the ball up the court every time. So if he does accept that new role, then I think it'll work out fine. But it's a big piece that they added. It is a contrasting style that they added. And so I think instead of clogging that paint up and stuff, it's just going to take a little bit of adjusting with those types of players, and they'll be fine. Okay, well, I got another question actually, because Steph ran through both LA teams. Did you see what he did last night? He had 45 points on 16 of 25 and made his first 10 shots. 2 clutch threes at the end of the game. Do you think Golden State can make a run again with Klay Thompson coming back in November?
Yeah, I mean, Golden State's going to be fine. They're going to be a team definitely to be reckoned with. Steph is playing at a very high level right now. Klay Thompson coming back, they're going to be extremely competitive. They were competitive last year. They, made the playoffs last year without Klay Thompson, with just Steph. So for for me, in my opinion on that, Golden State's going to be fine. I'm not worried about them at all. I actually had them. They were the last leg of my parlay. I had the Dodgers and I had the Miami Heat. Miami Heat absolutely destroyed the Bucks. Obviously, the Bucks had a lot of players out right now. But you know, Miami
25-3.
Huh?
So that game started like 25-3.
Yeah. Miami is, hey, don't sleep on Miami in the East. Kyle Lowry now being out there as well as in the Bulls as well. You know, they I know me and you, well, I don't know if you actually took them, but I took them in a couple parlays. I had them in the 76ers on opening night, spread and money line, hit both of those. So that was nice.
-5, the spread. Did you see how it ended though?
Yeah, dude. So on that tip back that they had, and so whenever that happened, I was actually playing Warzone, and Julian calls me, our boy Sauce, and shout out Sauce. We need to get you on the podcast again soon, brother. But Sauce calls me. He's like, bro, we just lost on the spread, game winning tip. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And I go pull it up, and I pull it up on YouTube TV. And as soon as I pull it up, they're like, oh, waved off. And I was like, oh, wow.
They don't even ever give those last shots that much time of day. Like they'll count it and leave and move on.
Yeah, because I mean the game's already over with, you know. So they're just like, oh, whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, this is the best time in sports right now, in my opinion. You know, we're getting to that point. We're almost halfway through football. You got October playoff baseball, about to be the World Series, especially when the Astros are still in it. You know, basketball starting right now. So, you know, you got Champions League soccer, you got PGA that's kicking back up. Shout out Rory McIlroy, you know, winning the first tournament that he has in a while. This past weekend. So great time for sports right now. But yeah, on the NBA side, I think the Warriors are going to be fine. I think the Lakers are going to be fine. Some of the teams that I'm really excited to watch this year, the Bulls. Obviously, Alex Caruso going to Chicago, DeMar DeRozan going to Chicago, Zach LaVine still being the baller that he is. You know, guys like Kobe White that are still there to be able to add some depth there. And just to kind of touch bases on the Rockets now, I will say, and I'm going to say this out in public now, so everybody hears, okay, on Friday, October 22nd at 9:58 a.m., I no longer hate the Houston Rockets. Okay, I no longer hate the Houston Rockets. James Harden is officially gone. He's been gone, I know, but the Rockets are actually making good decisions and good moves. I love Jalen Green. I love Josh Christopher. I've been fans of them since they played together in AAU basketball whenever they were in high school. So I think they got a really good duo in them. Obviously, Christian Wood, Kevin Porter Jr. The Rockets are building something.
Alperen Sengun is one of their best players. That kid's a stud. Alperen Sengun, however you say his last name. The center, he's a baller, dude. He's a baller. He can stretch.
So I do not hate the Rockets anymore. Okay, I've been a renowned Rockets hater in our area and between all the people that we grew up and we socialized with. So I'm stating that now. I'm no longer a Rockets hater. I will support the Rockets. It's going to be a long road, but I'm with it because they finally got rid of James Harden and they're moving on. They're moving on from him, making some good moves. So. Well, with that being said, let's just kind of wrap up NBA a little bit, just to kind of talk about, you know, our finals predictions, you know. So I know last year we both had Lakers in the Nets. It didn't work out like that at all. It wound up being, you know, the Suns and the Bucks. So, but with that being said, who you got this year? And then we'll also kind of give our MVP predictions as well. So, finals predictions, who you got in the finals, who you got winning, and then your MVP prediction.
I'm going right back to it. Nets, Lakers, I'm taking it again. They both got eliminated. I was not expecting that to go down, but the Nets reasonably were 1 foot away from making it with KD's foot on the line. So understandable to see them get back to it. Lakers, I think probably have a little bit more depth now. More complete of a team. I think if they stay healthy, they'll make a run. I don't see, I mean, them losing to the Suns last year was pretty shocking. After them, they were up 2-1 and I believe lost 4-2, if my memory serves me correct. But I think especially with the Nuggets, I'm looking at the Nuggets with Jamal Murray being out. I'm wondering what team is going to push for one of those top spots because I expect them to take a step back. The Suns will probably be up there. The Jazz will probably be up there. Who makes a run? Is it the Blazers? Is it the Warriors coming back up? Is it, you know, the Mavs? but I don't really see the Lakers struggling with those teams. Again, Kawhi Leonard is out. He tore his ACL in the playoffs last year. So typically have to worry about the Clippers, probably not too much this year. So the Nets are going to struggle again with the Bucks if they run into them. It's just a bad matchup. We saw it again on opening night. The Bucks beat them by 20 plus. If Kyrie does come back, though, I would rather have KD. Personally, I think the Nets are in better shape if they're running out KD and Kyrie rather than KD and James Harden. Personally, that's just my 2 cents. Kyrie is one of the most underrated playmakers of all time, one of the most underrated ball handlers of all time, probably one of the most underrated players. But again, if Kyrie comes back, I think the Nets are able to get past the Bucks. If Kyrie does not come back and play in the playoffs, then I think they're going to once again struggle with Milwaukee. So I'm going based on Kyrie potentially coming back. I'm going Nets, Lakers, and I got the Nets winning the championship. And then for MVP, I'm doing the same thing again as last year, because if this team can make a push, if the Mavs can just be like a top 4 seed and Luka averages close to a triple double, they're going to win because of him. Like, it's going to be because of Luka, those wins. So I'm taking Luka Doncic again to win MVP.
Gotcha. And just to kind of confirm, so my pick last year, I had Lakers and the Nets, and then I think I picked Damian Lillard for the MVP, right? Yeah. I took a little dark horse there.
Yeah.
So, and shout out Damian Lillard, because, people have already been asking him, hey, what are you going to do? Are you staying in Portland? Or are you going to leave? And they ask him that every year, and he has the same answer. He's like, look, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to run away from adversity. We're going to figure this thing out. But their front office definitely needs to get him a little bit more help, because he's been putting that team on the back, since we can remember, since him against the Rockets. But if nobody knows what I'm referring to, what was that, Game 7 against the Rockets, first round. Chandler Parsons stays guarding Damian Lillard, and he comes off the screen, catches the ball, knockdown, send Portland the next round.
Yeah, we lost in 6.
Yeah, it was in 6. So, but with that being said, for my pick for the finals predictions, I am actually going to go with the Bucks again. I think the Bucks are just too deep. I think Giannis, he's finally developed that jumper. It's looking really, really well. And if he can be able to continue to hit that mid-range little turnaround that he has and nobody can really defend, I think they're just going to be too deep. And until Brooklyn can prove to me that they can stay healthy and that they can have their core players together in the playoffs, I mean, we don't even know if Kyrie's going to play this year, So for that's the only reason why I'm staying away from the Nets pick. So I got Lakers and I got Bucks. I think that's going to be defending NBA champions with the Bucks being there. Then you got Lakers, Carmelo, Russ, DeAndre Jordan, like all of them and everything. And I think that's going to kind of be the matchup that everybody is going to want to see. Because me personally, I just don't see KD, Kyrie, and James Harden being healthy at the end of the year. I just don't. Or all of them playing together, whether it's because Kyrie's playing or not, whatever it may be. So that's my prediction: Lakers and the Bucks. I do like the Lakers beating the Bucks. I think as long as the Lakers stay healthy, they're the most talented team in the NBA. I think they're going to be very deep. And I think they're going to be one of the better defensive teams once they start figuring out how to play with each other and start figuring out how to play team defense. So I do like the Lakers winning. And then for my MVP pick of the year, I am actually going to go with Trae Young. Trae Young, in my opinion, is going to be the MVP of the NBA this year. I think he's going to take a huge step. I think the push that he had in the playoffs last year, what he did in New York, and then even what he did against Milwaukee, I think was extremely tough. And he really proved to himself that he can take that next step. So for me, I like Trae Young to be the MVP this year. I don't have the odds pulled up right now, but you're going Luka Doncic. I'm going Trae Young. So with that being said, we need to ask, who won that trade? Who won that trade? You think Atlanta won that trade? You think Dallas won that trade? Who do you think won that trade?
No, I would think initially it looked like the Mavs won, getting Luka, a generational player, but then over the last now year and a half, especially with the playoff run last year, Trae Young has just had this resurgence and, just vibe to him and ability to carry the Hawks team and lead the Hawks team. Like you even saw it last night with the Mavs and Hawks playing. He didn't do anything for the first quarter and a half and then comes out He's setting up pick and rolls. I mean, through a quarter and a half, he had no points. He had 2 turnovers and he had 1 assist. And then last night through the second quarter and the rest of the game, he comes out, is setting the pick and roll with Clint Capella, which is one of the best pick and roll duos in the game. He's knocking down big time threes. He's getting Huerter involved, Bogdanovich. I mean, he's doing everything. John Collins, and comes out and they end up blowing it open and they have a 20-point lead that they hold on to for pretty much the rest of the game. So I think the trade was even. I think they both got amazing players, guys that can lead their team. And what more can you ask for? The Hawks with their other pieces are in better shape last night. And speaking of the Hawks, last night, Cam Reddish was the most aggressive I have ever seen him play in my life. And if he's going to continue to do that, he's going to have a chance, I'll say it now, as most improved player this year, because I have never seen Cam Reddish was acting different last night. He was acting different. He had his headband on. He was taking it to the rack. Every time he had the ball, he was creating shots, not just spot up shooting. I think in years past, he's been very, very timid and just like, okay, my role is to spot up and shoot, and that's what I'm going to do. No, somebody talked to him this offseason because last night he was very aggressive. But anyway, I think that trade was even. I think Trae Young's a good pick at plus 2,000. Luka Doncic is the favorite at plus 400, so I feel like a square. But I'll give you one more and say Steph Curry at plus 700 also is probably a good option. Because with Clay coming back, that's going to alleviate some of the pressure and load for Steph, which means he can probably create a little bit more freedom. So to answer your question, I think it's a pretty even trade. I think both teams got a good deal out of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's easy to, a lot of people are saying that Atlanta won the trade because they went farther in the playoffs and this and that, but it's 1 year. This is going to be a conversation that's going to be going on for the next decade, 10 years from now, whenever these guys are true veterans in the league and people are still saying, well, it's really good. Who's won a championship yet? Now that one's won a championship, who's reached farther in the playoffs? Who's made it to a conference finals? Who's even made it to the finals? And a lot of that has to do with the type of decisions those organizations make after that trade as well. So in my eyes, I think I kind of agree with you. It's tough to pick a side on that just because neither one's really made it to a conference finals or they've never really made it to, actually being able to make it to the finals. So I think those are two caliber players that play a little bit differently. Luka more has a complete package with the rebounding and I think he's more of a true point guard than Trae Young is, whereas Trae Young's mainly just a bucket getter and he will facilitate, but he's just going to pull up from wherever he wants to pull up. And obviously Luka having a bigger frame could do a little bit different things than Trae, but I think it was a very even trade on both of them. So there's our predictions. You got LA and the Nets. You got the Nets winning. And then I have LA and Milwaukee, and I have LA winning. And then you have obviously Luka for your MVP, and I have Trae Young. So we'll kind of use that to wrap up the NBA side. Let's get into football. We're right here in the heart of the season. Let's just recap on some college football real quick. I didn't really watch a lot of college football this weekend, unfortunately. Saturday, my aunt and uncle, they bought some property out in Dayton, which is about northeast of Houston. They bought about 20 acres out there. So I was out there, no service, just hanging out, checking out their ranch that they just got out there. So that was pretty cool. But fortunately, watched some of the Astros game. But as soon as they hit 2 grand slams, we were down 8-0. I was just kind of checking it after that. But some of the key matchups that were happening over the weekend, we did have Georgia and Kentucky. Georgia routed Kentucky, just proving that they, in my opinion, are going to be the top team in the country this year. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see for who they're going to play in the SEC championship. It's more than likely going to be Alabama. And with that being said, we do have a route to make it to the college football playoffs still, if we go undefeated, meaning Texas A&M. So and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I don't have anything written down. But if Alabama goes to the SEC championship, which we're expecting them to, and they play Georgia, and Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC championship, Alabama would then have 2 losses, and we would have the head-to-head over Alabama. So if the rest of the field kind of shakes out to where we could be around that top 5, that top 6 spot, that may be enough for the committee to be able to push us in. It may not be. Obviously, a lot of things would have to happen and go our way for Texas A&M. But with being 2 losses, obviously, Arkansas, Mississippi State, the Mississippi State loss really hurts and kind of looks bad. But if we went out and we beat Ole Miss, we handle Ole Miss, we handle LSU, who LSU beat Florida. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. But if we went out and we only have 2 losses, and then one of them is to Arkansas, the other one's to Mississippi State, and we beat Bama, and Bama loses to Georgia, and hopefully that Georgia Alabama game is a close one, and Alabama barely loses, and them having 2 losses, I feel like that may be enough to put us in the college football playoff. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first thing is I don't have a strong feeling about us winning out, but if we did, I think you're correct in that there would be a chance, but I think it'd be a very small chance. I think we'd be inside the top 10 if we went out. But Cincinnati, I don't see losing. Ohio State, I don't see losing again. And Oklahoma, I don't think we'll lose either. And that would solidify the 4 with Bama and A&M being right on the outside looking in. So I don't really know that it's going to happen because of those other teams. If Bama beats Georgia, then they're both getting in, and then somebody else is getting left out. And then if Bama does lose, I think those other 3 teams are getting in along with Georgia. But I'm also thinking about that in the condition that they also win out as well.
Yeah.
Because Ohio
like I
State
said,
has one loss.
There's definitely some things that have to happen
now.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that have to happen to help us out, but I'm just saying there is still a way, and whenever there's a way, if you can will that to happen, obviously we got to take care of business, and we'll see. But, don't want to use just A&M's, slim shot to go to college football to wrap up our entire college football segment on that. But just to kind of recap some of the games. So you had Oregon with the big win. Not big, over Cal. Obviously, Cal being 1-5, 0-3 in the Pac-12. But I do remember that spread being pretty close. Alabama routing Mississippi State. See, games like that is what upsets me. How do we beat Alabama and then lose to Mississippi State, and then Alabama plays Mississippi State and they beat them 49-9? That's not going to look good on our resume whatsoever. University of Texas losing to Oklahoma State 24-32. I love it. Oklahoma State still undefeated. Texas having their 3rd loss of the year. 2-2 in the Big 12. Really struggling. They didn't even score a point in the 4th quarter. A&M taking care of business at Mizzou. Missouri's not a good team. They're 0-3 in the SEC, beating them 35-14. Kentucky and Georgia routing Kentucky. I mentioned that earlier, 30-13. And then probably the biggest upset of the weekend, Zane, was Purdue over Iowa. Purdue beating Iowa 24-7. Purdue actually now has the most wins against, top 2 ranked team in the country, like ever of all time, I think. So that was a huge win, being able to knock Iowa off. Me personally, I don't think Iowa has any chance to make the college football playoff now. I think if it was going to be somebody out of the Big Ten, they were going to have to be an undefeated. And then we still got Michigan and Michigan State that are still both undefeated as well, correct? So those are some other teams in the Big Ten that still have some chances. Oklahoma putting up 52 against TCU. Caleb Williams, 5 touchdowns in his starting debut. And just to kind of recap and touch bases on that, I know we were talking about, Spencer Rattler possibly, maybe transferring or just kind of dealing with some of that. Spencer Rattler actually did take out the University of Oklahoma from his bio on all of his social media. So now it's just, football player Spencer Rattler, contact for business inquiries, and it's just a picture of him in an Oklahoma jersey. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think personally, he's probably going to stay with the team for the rest of the year, do everything he can to try to help them win a national championship and be there for them. Obviously, injury may happen. You never know. Maybe Caleb Williams goes down, knock on wood. Obviously, I don't hope that to happen for any kid. But I think it will be Spencer Rattler still staying there for the rest of the year. But I personally think he's gone after this. He's gone. He's probably going to go to another school, may transfer to the Big Ten. I don't think he's going to go anywhere in the SEC, but maybe go somewhere in the Big Ten. He's probably not going to stay in the Big 12, me personally. Or maybe he does want to stay in the Big 12 and he wants to come back and try to beat OU at a different school. Maybe, who knows? So only time will tell with that, but interesting to see him taking the University of Oklahoma out of his bio. Michigan State staying undefeated. There would be an Indiana 20-15. Ole Miss also beating Tennessee 31-26. And the biggest, really, probably, SEC upset was LSU. Very poor LSU team with a lot of injuries, upsetting number 20 Florida. I'm sorry, at home, 49-42. Shout out to Coach Baker, linebackers coach, for getting that win. But after that, even after that upset win, LSU and Coach O announcing that both parties are agreeing to go separate ways after the season. And I don't know if you saw, but there was a lot of pictures leaked of Coach O with underage women and this and that have been going on this past week, which is extremely unfortunate. Obviously, you don't ever really want that to come out, stuff like that happen. But it looks like LSU, they are going to have a vacancy at their head coaching position. There was a lot of rumors that maybe Jimbo Fisher would be trying to hunt for that job. Obviously, him previously coaching there and winning national championships there. But Jimbo did come out and say earlier this week in a press conference at Texas A&M, he did mention, hey, I'm happy. I love it here. We're building something great. You see what we're doing. We have a lot of big recruits that are still coming to A&M. Connor Weigman, who is going to be the lead recruit that is committed to Texas A&M right now, he just got bumped up to the number one quarterback in the nation. So A&M does have the number one quarterback in the nation, committed them for the year of 2022. They have a lot of 4 or 5-star recruits that are coming there, one of the top recruiting classes in the nation for next year. So Jimbo comes out and said he loves Texas A&M. He loves College Station. He loves the culture. He loves the atmosphere. His wife loves it. He even attested to how much the city of College Station and the university have committed to him and his family's foundation. And I also love the fact that he said, hey, I hunt here. I got ranches here, everything. So I think Jimbo has really found a home. He also commented on how great this chancellor is, the president, the AD. I think Texas A&M is willing to give him unlimited resources and whatever he needs to be able to, turn this program into a legitimate top tier program. A lot of people say that Texas A&M is a top, second tier program, but to be able to get us over that hump to where, we're not just beating Alabama every 10 years, so where we're beating them, hey, every other year, and we're competing with a school like that. So Jimbo did come out and say he doesn't plan on leaving anytime soon. So hopefully that puts to rest those rumors, but it's going to be interesting to see. We've seen some things that maybe Urban Meyer wants to leave the NFL and go to LSU or whatever it may be. So
that he might not have a choice.
Right, exactly. But with that being said, who do you think, may be able to come into that LSU job? That's a high profile job, a lot of expectations. Who do you think may be a decent candidate for that? People are even saying Lane Kiffin may leave Ole Miss and go to LSU. And that's going to be crazy to see. You saw him walking off the game at Tennessee, fans throwing water bottles at him, Odell in the water bottles. Fans throwing golf balls at him because he left Tennessee to go to USC, and then he left USC to go to Bama, then he left Bama to go to Ole Miss, and now there's already speculations that he may leave Ole Miss and go to LSU. So whenever you do have a coach like that, let's say you are LSU, right? And yes, it's one of the top jobs in college football. But whenever you have a coach like that, Lane Kiffin, who it seems like he's just always leaving to go to that next best job or the next best high paid job, as a player and as a recruit, somebody that you're getting recruited by Lane Kiffin, how confident can you be that Lane will be there your entire tenure there? If I'm a guy, and especially if I'm a quarterback, obviously I'd love to play for Lane Kiffin if I'm a quarterback, running back, receiver, just because he's an offensive guru. But how confident can you be that he's going to be there throughout your entire 3 years or your 4 years? Who knows that, maybe the Texans may reach out to Lane Kiffin and say, hey, in a couple of years, can you come coach the Houston Texans? We'll pay you X amount of money. I guarantee you Lane Kiffin's going to dip out and go to the NFL if he has the opportunity to. So just one of those things. But with that being said, you shook your head. I'm assuming you think Lane Kiffin may be the front runner for the LSU job?
I think it makes sense. He's already in the SEC and has a really good track record for the most part. I think Lane Kiffin's a good option. I would also look, I don't know if LSU necessarily needs like one of the biggest names. You mentioned Urban Meyer as a potential candidate. I think Mel Tucker with Michigan State, if Michigan State keeps playing this way, an opportunity to move up into the SEC will present itself. Not necessarily a flashy move or, a big name, but I also think they could stay in Louisiana and go right down the road to Lafayette and get Billy Napier as well. Billy Napier's been around college football for a very long time. it would be a bonus to keep him and his family around. I mean, in Louisiana, it's not far. So I think those are some options. If you're looking at big names, Lane Kiffin, Urban Meyer obviously jump out as some of the biggest ones. They might try to make a push for Dabo, but I don't think he'll leave Clemson. I think he'll keep trying to build on what he has already built there. But yeah, I think some of the names to look out for are probably Mel Tucker and Billy Napier as well.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that, even though UL did not have a very good performance last night.
No, has 18 favorites.
Yeah, 18-point favorites, what they won by a point.
Yeah.
I actually had them in a teaser for them to just, win by 11, and it wasn't even close. But yeah, we'll see. That's going to be a very hot topic on who LSU hires. And do you think it was really a strategic move for them to come out and say now, hey, we don't plan on bringing Coach O back. Coach O's leaving, because you got to think there's a lot of coaches that right now, this is where they make those extensions. This is where they make that money, to where they're trying to push to be bowl eligible. Then the university saying, okay, we're willing to give you a contract extension now. But now, if you're a coach, like you're coaching for ULL or you're coaching for another smaller school like that, before you sign that extension, you may have that idea in the back of the mind. Well, instead of me signing an extension here, I do want to go interview for that LSU job.
I think it was strategic to let other coaches know, to put it on their radar and try to get the best pool of candidates, because why would you not want to go to Death Valley and LSU?
Right.
Why would
Absolutely.
You not?
Absolutely. They have arguably probably the most talent pool in college football there, right there in their home state, between New Orleans, Shreveport, Baton Rouge, Metier, everything down there, even going to Lake Charles, Sulphur area right there. I mean, there's a ton of talent being able to pull from Mississippi and Georgia and Texas and, everywhere around here down in the SEC. So I could definitely see some strategy behind them, of them announcing that as well. So with that being said, who's your pick right now for college football? Just to kind of update pick. I know we didn't really talk about this and say that we were going to announce this, but as of right now, if you had to pick somebody that's going to win the college national championship, is it just Georgia? Is that kind of the saying, or do you think Alabama still has a chance? Or, I mean, obviously Alabama always has a chance, but I mean, if you had to pick right now, if we were at the casino, we're going to the sports book right now, and you had to throw money down on somebody to win national championship, who are you throwing your money down?
I'll go a little bit more bold and go for value, but I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Georgia's going to win the SEC championship. They're going to beat whoever's number 4. We're going to get Cincinnati versus Oklahoma for the other playoff, and it's going to get a lot of hype. It's going to be good, but Oklahoma's going to run away with it. And then Oklahoma and Georgia are going to play, and Oklahoma is going to upset them. And it's going to be just as good of a game as it was when Roquan Smith and Baker Mayfield were on the field for those teams. I think Oklahoma with Caleb Williams is a different team. I think people wrote them off. All these games were one possession. Caleb Williams.
You're picking OU.
Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the country. He's the best quarterback in the country. And for value, I think OU doesn't lose another game. I think their toughest game is against Oklahoma State before the Big 12 championship. I think Georgia's going to win, but if we're going for value, I'm taking Oklahoma to upset Georgia in the national championship.
I just personally don't think that Caleb Williams has seen a good enough defense like Georgia before to be able to pull off a win like that. Me personally, I think
of the year.
I think he's definitely, up there in regards to talent, in regards to the, the top quarterbacks of the country. Absolutely, no doubt. I mean, he showed it his first career start throwing for 5 touchdowns, and obviously being, under center for one of the biggest, offensive geniuses in college football, that being Lincoln Riley. I think there's definitely a shot, but when it comes down to, can Oklahoma stop the run, which I don't think they've been doing a really good job of stopping the run this year. For me personally, I'm still going to say Alabama. I think Alabama is going to probably play Georgia in the SEC championship. Even though we need Alabama to lose to them for us to have a shot, I think Alabama is going to get not really revenge on Georgia, but again, Nick Saban's never lost an assistant other than Jimbo Fisher, So I can see Alabama beating Georgia in the SEC championship. I don't know how that seeding would look after that, but if they beat Georgia in the SEC championship, they're definitely going to get a spot in the college football playoff. And I think if you give Alabama a chance in the college football playoff, I think they just have way too much experience in that coaching staff. Your boy B.O.B. is doing really well this year offensively, other than, of course, the Texas A&M game. Bryce Young, people are asleep on Bryce Young. He's still one of the most talented quarterbacks in college football. Yeah, he's young. He doesn't have a lot of game time experience just yet. But I think Alabama will find a way to win the national championship this year. I definitely think they will. So that's going to be my pick. So you got OU, I got Alabama. Neither one of us are picking Georgia, which is an obvious pick. But that's cool. That's fine. So with that being said, we'll wrap up college football, and we're going to just kind of finish things up on NFL. So first things first, Nolan texted me, your boy Nolan, shout out, appreciate the shout out on the podcast last week. I gave him some respect, and I'm going to humble myself here, and I'm going to give Aaron Rodgers some respect as well. There were reports of Aaron Rodgers after rushing in that touchdown, whenever it was 17-14, we were only down by 3, should have been tied. We should have gotten the field goal before that. But Aaron Rodgers scrambling, the typical pump fake right at the line of scrimmage, and then just scamping out to the corner of the end zone to score, and then him doing the discount double check saying, I own you, I've always owned you, I still own you. But he's absolutely right. I've had a lot of people that ask me, how do you feel about that? I mean, what the fuck you want me to say? It's Aaron Rodgers. He's absolutely handled the Chicago Bears his entire career. Yeah, we won. I think the last time we beat him was in 2018, whenever when we made the playoffs. Green Bay was extremely banged up that game. Eddie Jackson had a game-sealing interception with like 3 minutes left. But other than that, Aaron Rodgers has dominated the Chicago Bears throughout his career. He really has. I can't say anything to that. I can't really attest. I just got to kind of, hey, you deserve that. You can say what you want. But at the end of the day, his time is coming to an end. So I'm excited to see that. So his time is coming to an end in Green Bay. I'm ready to get him out of there. I'm ready to start having these Jordan Love, Jay Field comparisons and competitions. And I personally think whenever Aaron Rodgers leaves, it's going to be Justin Fields' division, me personally. So, but with that being said, I think Bill Lazor did do a better job of tailoring our scheme and our offense to Justin Fields' asset this past week. There's a couple times that, there's some questionable play calling in regards to whenever we were in field goal range and being able to get those points right before the half. Justin Fields took a bad sack there, but it's improving. It's getting better. Khalil Herbert, what a day. First career NFL start. Rushed for over 100 rushing yards against Green Bay. Had a pretty good outing. I don't know if Damian Williams is going to be coming back. We're playing Tampa Bay this week. We're in the gauntlet of our schedule. We're probably not going to beat Tampa Bay. I think what we open up as like a 13, 14 point underdog, something like that. So two touchdown, around a 2 touchdown underdog. So it's probably going to be an ugly game this week. I just think with Tampa Bay and the way that they've been able to stop the run, they're going to really be able to force Justin Fields to throw the ball a lot. And, with David Montgomery being out, Khalil Herbert playing, and I don't know if Damian Williams is going to be playing yet because he's not vaccinated. So the earliest we would even know that is on Saturday because he's unvaccinated. So that's a mandatory 10-day rest period there whenever you test positive for COVID. So Bears, pretty good showing. Didn't get the job done. So we're going to have to move on from that. But some other performances there. The Texans, another terrible performance, 31-3. TY being TY coming back. Shout out P. Mill, my boy Phil Billy. Jags finally got their first win in 20 games or something.
And we said it would take them going to London to do it, home team. I took Jags money line. It was my favorite pick of the weekend, and I hated everything about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out to them. Their kicker, who was like a software engineer a couple of weeks ago, and he was putting out film, and then they bring him in. He beats out Josh Lambo, and then he kicks a game-winning field goal in London.
Now him and Miles Garrett are both getting drug tested.
Yeah, now he's getting drug tested. It's like, dude, come on, dude. I was just a software engineer a couple of weeks ago. Like, what do you think I'm doing? So huge win for the Jags there. Being able to actually get a win. Trevor Lawrence's first win as a starter in the NFL. He actually had a pretty good showing. But since we're talking about that matchup, there's been a lot of rumors coming out and saying that the Texans and the Dolphins were supposed to be finalizing a deal by the end of this week and sending Deshaun Watson to Miami.
But did you see the 3-team deal?
Huh?
Did you see the potential of it being a 3-team deal?
No, I didn't see that. Who would be the third team would be involved?
Tua going to Washington is what I read.
So Tua going to Washington, I mean, Washington would have to give up a lot of value if they're going to get Tua for that. So I'm thinking draft picks. You know, I mean, who else would be involved? Because I mean, how would that? Okay, obviously draft picks, definitely. But who else is Washington going to give up?
Yeah, I don't know. They might move off somebody in their front. It's definitely not going to be Chase Young.
No, but they don't have Montez Sweat anymore. Montez Sweat being in Philly now, so they don't have Montez Sweat anymore. So I'm just trying to think off the top of my head who else they're going to give up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly who they would give up, but they have some pieces on that front and they have some skill guys too. But I don't know how legit that rumor is. I saw it in one place. I'm not really sure. But if that comes about, that is interesting too. So just something to monitor. They said the trade could be done by the end of this week. The end of the week is now here. I don't think that it's going to get done, but it's something to watch over the next 10 days before the trade deadline.
The trade deadline, right?
November 2nd.
November 2nd. Yeah, November 2nd for the trade deadline. And that's going to be interesting too, because if you're Miami, okay, you see how Jacoby Brissett's played, not very well, not great, okay? If you're trading away Tua and you're going to get Deshaun and you still don't know what the outcome of all this is going to be, you know, obviously if they do trade for him, Deshaun is eligible to play, right? He's still not suspended by the NFL. He's not on the NFL exempt list, right? So if they trade for Deshaun, Deshaun can play immediately. Is that correct? Yeah. So Deshaun, yeah. So as far as I know, Deshaun can play immediately. But you know, is it worth it? You know, if you go get a guy like Deshaun and he plays, let's say this year, then you know, because you know if he gets on the field, all this crap is just going to revamp up again. That's exactly what's going to happen. Right now, it's been quiet because he hasn't been playing, right? But if he gets on the field again and he starts performing well, like how we know he's going to, it's Deshaun Watson. He's going to put up phenomenal numbers. I mean, you know, he was on pace to win MVP, you know, just for the Texans. So, but with that being said, I'm just kind of a little bit concerned if I'm Miami, if I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket to go get a guy like Deshaun and just hoping. But again, if they are going to trade for him, then they must have some insider information knowing that, hey, how is the NFL going to handle that? How is all that going to play out? So that'd be a sad day for you. But, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like it's almost inevitable at this point. You know, Deshaun's not going to play another down for Houston Texans. So question, if Deshaun leaves, are you still going to be a Texans fan or are you going to follow wherever Deshaun goes?
No, I mean, I'm still a Texans fan, but it's like, it's just in a seesaw right now. Like there's nothing for me to do, like except stand by idly and just wait until they get a bunch of picks. I'm going to follow Deshaun if the legal stuff blows over and doesn't become a big deal. Like I'm going to follow his career and cheer for him. But I don't know. As I've gotten older, I've looked at things more from a business perspective than a fan perspective. Like I've just like don't have it in me to really root for Houston right now with current ownership. So like I'm just kind of in a standby, watching every NFL game, like rooting for my fantasy team and cheering for cool stuff to happen and enjoying this and like waiting until the day that McNair is no longer in ownership for Houston. And then I can start to feel a different way about it. But right now it's just hard for me to like, I just don't care. Like it's hard for me to have any kind of passion towards it with everything that's happened from internally. So it's a bad look. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to root for Deshaun if the legal stuff blows over, but I'm just not really following a team right now per se.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. And even JJ Watts came out and said, because commentators have asked him, you know, okay, what are your thoughts on, you know, you traveling back to Houston and playing Texans? And, you know, and JJ Watts said, well, that's not the organization that I know. You know, there's a reason why I left. There's a reason why I'm here. I didn't want to be a part of that organization anymore. So, you know, whenever your city leader, you're the guy that he really, in my opinion, JJ Watt put the Houston Texans on the map. Obviously, guys with like Arian Foster and Andre Johnson and things like that. But JJ Watt was that guy for the Houston Texans. You think about the impact that he created after Harvey and just everything he's done for the city and putting the city on his back. So you know it's bad whenever a guy like JJ has that to say whenever he's coming back. You know, obviously losing D-Hop being there over there as well. But yeah, that's gonna be definitely a interesting game. I think Arizona is going to beat the crap out of the Texans. They're going to make it a point. I think D-Hop is going to want to have a big day. JJ is going to want to have a big day. So that's going to be interesting there.
And
But
the
with
game's
that being
in
said,
Arizona. It's in
oh,
Arizona.
it's in Arizona. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
And so it's gonna be like 45-10. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna be bad.
Yeah, I am definitely probably going to have Arizona in a teaser. I'm looking at the spread right now. That's got Arizona minus 17.5. That's probably one of the biggest regular season. We have a couple of the biggest regular season spreads I've seen in a while. You got Rams at home against the Lions minus 16, Cardinals minus 17.5. I may tease both of those. Also, the Bucks at home minus 12.5 against my Chicago Bears. And then other than that, we got some pretty other good matchups. So really for me, the matchup that I'm really excited to see, Zane, I'm really excited to see this matchup is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. I'm very excited to see this game. I think this is going to be a huge game for the Cincinnati Bengals. If they can somehow beat Baltimore, this is the game for first place in that AFC North division right now. So if Cincinnati finds a way to go into Baltimore, get a road win, beat Lamar Jackson, beat the Ravens, I think they absolutely have to be taken seriously as a serious AFC contender. Just the connection that Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have right now, the mix of Joe Mixon's really picking his game up right now. And that defense is playing pretty well as well. That's really been the toughest thing for Cincinnati that we were used to seeing whenever Andy Dalton was there, is that defense in their secondary was pretty good when you had guys like Pac McJones, some other guys back there.
Geno,
Geno
Geno Atkins.
Atkins as well, absolutely. So with that being said, that's a matchup I'm really looking forward to seeing. I'm definitely staying away from that game. I don't know how that game's going to play now. Baltimore right now, they're a 6.5-point favorite. And another matchup that's going to be good too as well is this Chiefs Titans. Titans are coming off their biggest win of the season as of yet, beating Buffalo at home. That was a great game. Obviously, that was a Monday night game. I personally think that the Bills should have kicked the field goal, because if the Bills kicked the field goal and pushed it in overtime, Tyler Bass would have probably kicked another game winner and I would have beat you in highest points. But it's all good. I'm first place in Dynasty, have no complaints. It's nice. The air up here is very nice. See, that's why I brought out the Colorado nerd, because I'm way up in the air and y'all are down in Houston. I'm a mile high. So I'm enjoying that right now. But that's going to be another good matchup. Kansas City, Tennessee. Can Kansas City stop the run? We thought Buffalo was going to be able to stop the run. Derrick Henry broke out a 76-yard touchdown, had over 100 rushing yards. That's going to be a really big matchup for both of those teams. I personally, just looking at the records, because that's one thing that I look at now whenever you have two really good teams. It's like, is Kansas City really going to be 3-3, and is their Titans really going to be 5-2? I don't think so. I think Kansas City's going to wind up winning this game. They're opening up as a 4.5-point favorite, but I could see Kansas City winning this game, being 4-3, Tennessee losing, being 4-3 as well, and then that kind of opening up the door for the Colts to kind of come back. Colts being 2-4 right now, but they're building some momentum. Carson Wentz had a great game last week. Again, TY, but again, they were playing the Texans, so that was an automatic dub there. There have been rumors. I will say this, I'm a huge Bears fan, and obviously I pay a lot of attention to Bears rumors. There have been rumors that the Seattle Seahawks have reached out to Chicago in regards to inquiring about two players, Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. Obviously not in a package deal, but just trying to see what we'd be looking for in return for both of them. Me personally, I would love to get Andy Dalton out of Chicago, be able to get his contract off our books. I think that would be really good for us. Obviously, we only signed him to a 1-year deal, but being able to just get him out of our organization and just clearly have Justin Fields there, then you have Nick Foles being the backup. Either one of those guys. Let's get him off our books. Let's get him out of Chicago. We can ship them off to Seattle. I know Geno didn't play that bad, but I think they understand that they're not going to be able to do anything with Geno as their starting quarterback, and they're starting to run out of time. Is there a timetable on Russell Wilson's return right now? Do we know? Have they announced that at all?
I think he's out until like week 10.
Till about week 10.
At
So
least.
he's got about maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 more weeks left, around there, just depending, because we're going into week 7 now in the NFL. So a minimum of 3 more weeks, and obviously They're looking at being 2-4 right now. They have a really tough game Monday night. New Orleans coming into town. If Seattle falls at 2-5, they're really going to have to figure something out. Just because you got Arizona in that division at 6-0, and then of course you still have the Rams as well. The Rams being at 5-1, and they're playing the Detroit Lions being at 6-1 this week. So, with that being said, talking about that matchup, that's going to be a really, I don't think, interesting matchup, just because I think it's going to be a blowout. But Jared Goff still has not won a game without Sean McVay being his head coach, still to this day. So I think this is going to be huge for Jared Goff and maybe his future in the NFL. If he goes into LA and they get blown out, which I think is going to happen, and if they don't wind up winning a game this year, his career may be done. His career may be done, because I understand he's in Detroit. He's not playing for a great team, but they haven't really been competitive since week one, in my opinion. Obviously week one they cover the spread against San Francisco, but now we're looking.
They were against Baltimore. They lost by a field goal.
Yes. Okay, against Baltimore, but that was a weird game. But for me personally, just Jared Goff, I think whenever you lose some of those close games, and then it's just like so depleting. It's like, what are we gonna do? And me personally, I think they have enough talent on their team to win some games in this league. Like, they could beat Minnesota a couple of times. Shoot, they could even beat Chicago one time the way that we're playing right now.
They should have beat Minnesota, but they lost that one on a last-second field goal too.
Right, exactly. So I think that's going to be a big game for Jared Goff's career, and just being able to prove what he can do in the NFL. So that's going to be interesting. Obviously, I already spoke on that Rams being a minus 16-point favorite. So with that being said, what are some of the matchups that you're looking forward to seeing this week, Zaine?
Yeah, so first of all, let me back up just to last week real quick. We tried to give a bold upset pick, and we were both on the Patriots plus 155 for value. Even though sometimes you lose bets, I don't think it was a bad bet. I think the idea was there. The Patriots did have a 29-26 lead at the end of the game, and then it got pushed to OT, and Dak went and won it, and the Cowboys are legit. I'm going to do the same thing this week. I think the value on the money line is the Colts to upset the 49ers. I think the Colts start to climb back in the division a little bit, get to 3-4, and I can see the Titans losing to the Chiefs and coming down, and that AFC South is always close. And quite frankly, I just haven't been that impressed by the 49ers. They brought in Trey Lance, took a while for the offense to get going. Now I think they're going back to Jimmy G, who is one of the most overrated players in NFL history that I've said time and time again. I think Colts plus 170 is just too good a value, especially on Sunday Night Football as well. I think the Colts can get a win there. I do think it's going to be an ugly game. It's going to be a grind between those two teams. It's going to be one that's won in the trenches, a lot of running the ball, a lot of play actions. But I think the Colts are the good bet for this week. There's not a ton, like you mentioned, a lot of huge spreads, a lot of potential blowouts coming up this weekend. There's an interesting storyline there with Jared Goff going back to LA to face McVay, but not a ton of great matchups. The marquee matchup this week is the Chiefs and Titans, because the Chiefs have to go into Tennessee and get a W, especially after the Titans look dead in the water, losing to the Jets. Then they come back and beat the Bills. Again, like we said, time and time again, it's the NFL where any given Sunday, right? Weird things happen. But the Chiefs, I think, will be able to take advantage of the Titans defense. And for what it's worth, the Chiefs defense, I guess, looked a little bit better last week, only giving up 13 points to Washington. But Heineke's probably not the answer. And Washington hasn't been that good. They haven't been what we expected coming into this year. So I think the Chiefs will win that game. I think they'll slice the Titans up. I think it'll be a high scoring game, probably 38-31, 38-34. I could see something like that. I'm interested in the Bengals-Ravens game, but I'm worried for the Bengals in this one, because having been to MT&T Bank and seen my team get absolutely destroyed by the Ravens when we looked okay, like pretty good, the Ravens are just a different animal at home, especially with a crowd. Like, I have not seen much like it, and it was on full display last week against a very good Chargers team, and they just tore them apart, 34-6. Like, the Bengals have been good, but historically, Lamar, with that being a division matchup, Lamar has ripped them apart. He has always had success on the ground, and he's done well throwing it in the air. Like he's been able to do everything this year. And I'm just worried about the Bengals offense. I don't think they're going to be able to get it going. And if they can't slow down Lamar, it's going to be the same thing as last week with the Ravens just dominating at home. That spread opened at 10. That says a lot for how competitive both of these teams have been. It's all the way down to 6. I can understand why, with the Bengals being a good team and the betting community wanting to get that value, push that down. But again, the Ravens at MT&T Bank, they just feast on inferior teams and they just destroy them. The closest matchup I remember in the last few years, now they've definitely lost some games, but the most marquee, like a noon slate game, was against the 49ers when both the Ravens and 49ers were undefeated. I think that must have been 2 seasons ago now. But that was a low scoring game, like 23-20, a great game. But if the Bengals can't get anything going on offense, they're going to be in trouble in this one. But other than that, not a ton of big matchups. I think the Saints get the win on that Monday night game you mentioned. The Vikings, are they on bye? Yeah, I think the Vikings are on bye. Last week we said it would be a case where they come out and dominate the Panthers. Now suddenly the Panthers and Broncos look like 2 very average to below average teams, especially after last night on Thursday Night Football. So not a ton of big matchups this week. I expect the Packers to take care of business. Raiders, Eagles, kind of gross, to be honest. Rams, Cardinals, they take care of business. Bucks take care of business. Pats take care of business at home against the Jets. But other than that, all eyes are probably going to be on Chiefs, Titans, and Bengals, Ravens.
Yeah, definitely. And with that being said, so I have a teaser that I've cooked up this week that I do want to share. This is a 5-team, 7-point teaser. And with this, I have the Ravens plus half a point against the Bengals. I got Packers -1 against the Washington football team. I got the Rams -9 against the Lions, Cardinals -10.5 against the Texans, and then I got the Colts +11 against the 49ers. This one, if you risk $50, is to win 175. So it's pretty good odds right there. That's going to be the play that I'm going to offer to you guys this week. I will be playing that. You can take it, you can fade it, you can do however you like, but that is going to be a play that I'm offering this week. But with that being said, again, great time for sports right now. We talked about it earlier, but prime football, NFL, college football going on. Game 6 of the Astros ALCS against the Red Sox tonight at home in Houston. We got Luis Garcia on the mound. Hopefully we can close that out, punch our ticket to the ALCS. It's pretty cool though, Zane. I don't know if you saw, but all my Facebook and Snapchat memories were popping up. Literally about 4 years ago, of us being at the Bella McCoy Corsi cook-off. That was actually right when I first started working at Spike, on the electrical manufacturer that I work for right now. And we went to the cook-off. We had a great time. Lance McCullers threw 24 straight curveballs to punch our ticket to the World Series. We actually wound up leaving there, going to Keymo that night, FaceTiming your mom. That was a great time. So it's pretty crazy how things are coming back full circle now 4 years later. So, hey, who knows? Hopefully we can clinch tonight. That'll be fun. That'll be exciting. Houston, the city's going to go crazy. So unfortunately I'll be in Galveston this evening. Would love to be at that game. Would love to be at a World Series game, but man, those tickets are already getting up there. You're looking at $700, $800 just to get into the building right now.
And if we do clinch tonight, it gives us an edge on the rest for.
Oh, absolutely. And it's
we're already at home, and they got to come to us. I mean, trying to talk about a perfect storm.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if we do clinch tonight. Is what's going to happen with Lance McCullers? Is Lance McCullers going to play for us? Is he going to be back? Because if we can have him back in our rotation, that's going to be big. So definitely going to be interesting to see. But again, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in to Needed Sports Podcast. Don't forget, follow us on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Needed Sports, at Needed NFL for the NFL news as well. But again, like always, we appreciate you guys. Stay tuned in next week's episode. We're going to try to, I know, Zane, we were talking about it, but let's try to get out an episode on Monday morning, just to kind of recap everything on the weekend. All of the championship series should be wrapped up for baseball. We should know by the end of the weekend who's actually going to be in that World Series matchup, because I know Game 6 of the Dodgers and Braves is tomorrow night, Saturday, and then Game 7, if needed, is going to be on Sunday as well. Same thing, Game 6 tonight, Friday, then Game 7, Saturday being in Houston if that's needed as well. So if we can put out an episode Monday, I think that'd be really good. A recap over baseball, recap NFL. We can preview Monday Night Football, kind of get into detail a little bit about that New Orleans-Seattle game. But again, like always,
the World Series kicks off Tuesday night.
Yep. So it'll be perfect preview for the World Series. So you guys look out for that. But again, follow us on all social media, give us some feedback. And we need to get some guests on here. So maybe I'll reach out to Julian, or maybe we can have Nolan or somebody else come in and try to get some guests in here and give us some feedback on the video podcast as always. But as always, we appreciate you guys, and enjoy the sports weekend. We got a lot of big sports coming up.